It is very understandable that we want kids to make good choices, and we want to instill that quality into them. But for many people, getting kids to make personal choices is treated like it's a mystical thing, and we're going to wave our hands over the crystal ball and somehow discover the answer, when actually the answer requires no crystal ball of any kind, cool though they may be. Oh, hi. This is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, coming at you with another video. This time we are going to talk about how to teach kids about personal power. That is, their ability to remember that they are choice makers and that their choices have consequences of some kind. And I'm here to tell you, it does not involve a crystal ball. It doesn't involve a technique in a parenting book exactly, though I guess it depends on the book that you read. It doesn't involve the right reward, the right punishment, the right words to say, or anything of the kind. But instead, what it requires from us as adults and parents in the situation is that we do the very thing that we want our kids to do. And it is very easy to think that you are doing that, but to actually be sort of surrendering your personal power over to your kids' behavior, which only then encourages kids to do the same. So let me jump into a couple of specific examples, because it is very understandable that we want kids to learn to take responsibility for their own choices, to remember that they're capable of making choices, and to understand and accept the consequences of their choices. So let's talk about an example. Common example I run into when it comes to choices and consequences is that parents sometimes come to me and say, well, I can't do anything else other than criticize and punish a lot, because if I don't, then my kid will not learn personal responsibility and making choices. And I go, well, that's very interesting, because it seems that your attitude there is that you don't have to view your own choices through the lens that you want your kid to view choices through. We could get into a long lecture, and I have several times on the channel, and probably will a lot more, about why punishments are not effective. But even if you want to believe that punishments are sometimes effective, very often we get stuck in this dance that we do with kids where we feel hurt by kids' misbehaviors. Kid is often misbehaving because there's some kind of hurt or pain going on for that kiddo, and the misbehaviors are a sort of reaction to that hurt. And our version of kind of misbehaving and lashing out is often to exercise power and dole out consequences. So very often, the way that we can take our personal power back from the situation and to thus help kiddo consider doing the same is by choosing not to lay the power over our choices and our well-being as the adults in the situation on kiddos' behavior. That can look many different ways for many different kids. One common example is when you have a kiddo who's prone to doing a lot of what I like to call hassling, which is, that could be name calling, it could be making a request that's been denied already over and over and over again, like, I want the toy, I want the toy, I want the toy. No, you're not listening to me. No. Okay, now I'm taking your toys away because you're not listening to me. Could be swearing, could be teasing too much. Bottom line is, we're going to lump that all in the category of hassling, and hassling is usually a very socially reinforced behavior, which is to say its whole point is to kind of poke, get a rise, get a reaction, and a lot of what's usually driving that is I'm ticked off at you, or I'm not satisfied, or I'm disappointed, or some combination thereof, or therein rather, and I'm going to hassle you. And so what very often happens is that parents get really stuck wanting their kid to see, hey, you don't have to hassle, and when you do, it has a consequence. But then they artificially kind of levy these consequences on kiddo, and then they sort of tell themselves the story about how that's the only way for things to go. And kid does the exact same thing back. Okay, I do my end of this dance, which is to say I hassle because I have to, because I really want this thing, and you get upset with me, levy consequences, and then we're stuck here. So, with hassling in particular, usually the answer is to not do much of anything and to watch out for a demand that we can experience when we're when we're frustrated, which is to say we're in some kind of pain, even if it's not like pain with a capital P, but we're in some kind of pain, like we're frustrated, we're angry, we feel kind of ashamed of ourselves, something like that. And we demand that the kid must change his or her behavior. And that demand largely represents the kind of surrendering of personal power that we don't want kids to do. So, in other words, what we need to do is we need to maintain our calm, maintain our ability to watch our choices, to watch maybe what our heads tell us, and maintain our ability to go, okay, well, kiddo just keeps hassling, and I've done this dance a lot, and every time I respond back by being frustrated or trying to correct them or redirect them or levy consequences, all that results in a big blow up, and the hassling behavior does not go away. And so instead, what I'm going to do here is I am going to simply kind of hang out and not really respond too much and try my best to focus on making the kind of choices that I want to make in this situation that feel good and seem to help lead me in the direction and lead kiddo in the direction that we really want to go. So the bottom line is, when we want kids to learn to make good choices and to maintain a stance of personal power, we have to do that first and foremost, because we're the leaders in the situation with kids. We're not even on equal terms with kids. Like we especially have to do these things when kids are struggling. Another situation where that's really important is when we find ourselves just in the punishment dance a lot. Because very often what's really going on and why the punishment really feels appealing to us is because we're hurt. And a display of power is sometimes appealing to almost anyone when we feel hurt, because it helps us feel sort of strong and powerful, and it can be appealing to alleviate that hurt. And so very often when kids are misbehaving, excuse me, it works a whole lot better to maintain a stance of, well, I'm not just going to react to this situation with a display of power as an attempt to control, or frankly, as a way of kind of getting back at. Because if we're honest, very often that's what drives punishment for a lot of situations where people really think it's necessary, and they disguise how much it appeals because of, frankly, vengeance, which is a normal thing to desire and to kind of have that impulse. It's kind of a survival mechanism. So it's normal for that to be there, but it's very easy to disguise that. And so very often what we do is we surrender our power and then tell ourselves that we're doing so in order to try to force the kid to make a choice. But you can't force choice making. You can't. It's kind of a paradox, right? You can't force someone into making a choice, because then it's not a choice at all. So if we want kids to make choices and to see the consequences of their choices and to maintain that stance of personal power and responsibility, we have to do so as well. And the paradox there is that we have to be okay with the fact that kid might make a choice that we don't feel like is helpful, and we have to let it happen. Of course, we're going to set limits and things like that if there's like a safety issue or something going on. But when we're talking about most misbehaviors, having a hard time talking tonight. When we're talking about most misbehaviors, there's usually not an imminent safety concern going on. So the exact answer of what exactly should you do, what exact choice should you make, I don't know, with the exception of this one. You should choose to maintain your own personal power and watch out for the little bug that says you doing that is incumbent upon your kid's behavior. And notice there how that's actually not really how it works. And all it does is send the message to the kid, this is what we do. And it's very quick for everyone, kid and parent alike, to get stuck. So get unstuck, take back your power, and you can show your kid the way to do the same. Thank you very much for listening. This is a little bit of an abstract one, I appreciate, but a very important one. So please consider subscribing if you found this video to be of use. You can also smash a bell notification to be informed when my next video gets posted. This is Dr. Brett Pearce signing off and wishing you all good luck with kids. Bye-bye.